Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 234 based on novel. So let's start. Hui Yuhao said, so Xu Tianran really was hurt. It's a pity we couldn't kill him. Otherwise, the Sun Moon Empire's army would collapse on its own. Zhu Zi suddenly laughed. I think so too. It's a pity that you didn't kill him. However, I have to tell you that the Sun Moon Empire wouldn't be in chaos even after he dies. This is because I'm still here. What if you were dead too? Hui Yuhao's voice suddenly turned cold. The smile on Zhu Zi's face became even more captivating. Don't try to scare me. That trick won't work on me. I've already seen through you. If you could really bear to kill me, you wouldn't have brought me here. You would have killed me when we were in the tent earlier. As she spoke, she leaned on the sides of the table and stood up. Then, she moved in front of Hui Yuhao and looked at him, saying, you can't bear to kill me, right? Hui Yuhao was forced to move back a little. As he looked at Zhu Zi, he felt very helpless. She was simply too clever. Yes, he wouldn't have brought her here if he was determined to kill her. Yes, I can't bear to kill you. However, since you're here and have seen my greatest secret, do you really think I'll let you off? Zhu Zi laughed and said, it's not important whether I go back. The more important thing is, how will the Sun Moon Empire's army react if I go missing? Should I analyze things for you? If you plan on keeping me captive, I would say that's a wrong move. What? Hui Yuhao was a little astonished as he looked at her. In fact, he had really wanted to keep her captive in here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought her here. In terms of military matters, Zhu Zi was an absolute genius. Without their marshal, the Sun Moon Empire's army would be without a leader. When that happened, there was bound to be internal chaos. That would make them easier to deal with. Zhu Zi laughed and said, if I'm around, Shrek City will be fine. However, I can't guarantee that if I go missing. I can even say that Shrek City will be in danger. Think about it. If I'm missing, wouldn't Shrek naturally be the most likely culprit? Given that, the Sun Moon Empire's army and my subordinates will first think of attacking Shrek and asking for me. If I'm held captive here, I can't send any instructions. Once they can't find me, they'll definitely enact vengeance on Shrek City. Do you really think that Shrek can handle our army? You should have seen how strong we were when we dealt with Di Qian today. Hui Yuhao said, I can bring you back to Shrek City and make you appear on the city walls. Once your subordinates see that you're there, will they dare to attack the city? Zhu Zi laughed coldly and replied, you're overthinking things. In this world, there are at least two people who can command the army. One is my husband, who's the current emperor of the Sun Moon Empire. Once I'm captured, they'll immediately send word back to Radiant City. My husband can even forsake his own son. What do you think he'll do for me? Furthermore, that would only give him the perfect reason to attack Shrek City. If I'm dead, he can easily find another person to replace me. That person is the military supervisor of the Sun Moon Empire's army, Zhong Liwu. You should know how vicious the Holy Ghost Church is. If I'm in the army, I can still suppress them. Once I'm gone, you should know about the hatred between the Holy Ghost Church and Shrek City. He can't wait to lay his hands on Shrek City. When that happens, he'll definitely activate all my subordinates to attack. In addition, he also wants me dead. If I'm dead, there's one less person in the Empire that can restrain him. Isn't that a good thing for him? He can kill two birds with one stone. If they can destroy Shrek City, those from the Holy Ghost Church are willing to pay any price. After destroying Shrek, they'll strengthen their control over the Sun Moon Empire's army and launch an all-out war. When that happens, who can stop them? Do you really think that the Sun Moon Empire's army is better under their control, or mine? Zhu Zi left Hui Yuhao wide-eyed in shock with her words. As he looked at her serious face, he couldn't speak for a long time. His reason for finding Zhu Zi today had been very simple. He wanted to hold her captive to alleviate the crisis that Shrek was currently facing. At least he could threaten the Sun Moon Empire, so that they wouldn't act recklessly. After that, he could also judge who Zhu Zi's real target was. However, Hu Yuhao hesitated after hearing her words. This was because every word she said made sense. Zhu Zi raised her teacup and blew into it. She blew the tea leaf on the surface away and tasted the tea. She revealed a relieved look on her face. Drinking a cup of hot tea is really a joy. Didn't you want to keep me captive here? You can go now. Don't worry. I know this is your independent space. Anyway, I can't escape. You just need to ask someone to send me 3 meals every day. I can't wait for some rest. I really have to thank you. Go on, you can go. Quickly, return. Otherwise, things wouldn't be great for Shrek if a master like you isn't around. Hu Yuhao looked at how calm Zhu Zi was as she sipped her tea. He sighed and said, Zhu Zi, did you know? I was almost tempted to kill you after hearing your words. The teacup in Zhu Zi's hand shook slightly, and she smiled. She placed the teacup on the table before staring at Hu Yuhao. All right. Do it then. At least keep my corpse intact after you kill me. Please bury me too. In fact, I'm more interested in staying in your heart. If you kill me, you'll be unsettled for the rest of your life. You'll remember me forever then. I'll be satisfied if that's the case. Come on, do it. As she spoke, she had already shut her eyes. Her long eyelashes touched the bottom half of her face. She was abnormally calm. Hu Yuhao only felt something stuck in his chest as he looked at Zhu Zi. He slowly stood up. If he really wanted to kill her, would he have waited until now? Hu Yuhao let out a long sigh as he left the room and took in a deep breath of the cold air in the demiplane. He knew that he had lost. Although he held Zhu Zi captive here, he still lost to her eventually. Zhu Zi shut her eyes for a brief moment and didn't move at all. When she reopened her eyes, Hu Yuhao was no longer in the room. She also stood up and revealed a fierce look on her face. This guy has no conscience. To think that I risked fighting the beast god trying to save him. HMPH, guys really are jerks. After she finished speaking, she also laughed. Eventually, did he also not lay a hand on her? She picked up her teacup once again. She didn't leave the room, but continued to sip her tea quietly. After she finished her own teacup, she took Hu Yuhao's teacup and slowly sipped on it too. She didn't mind that he had used it earlier. After the pot of tea was finished, Hu Yuhao returned to the room. When he saw that Zhu Zi was holding his teacup, he was stunned for a moment. Zhu Zi, what do you want? Are you really helping Xu Qianran rule the continent? You should know that this war will kill many people. Your family died in war. Why are you so intent on continuing this war? Zhu Zi turned cold. I'm continuing this war? Hu Yuhao, ask yourself. If I wasn't in this war, would it not happen? If I'm not around, will the Sun Moon Empire lose its ambition? Without me, can you deal with the Sun Moon Empire's soul tools? That's right, war kills people. However, I can touch my heart and tell you one thing. At least the number of people dying in this war is the lowest ever in history when I'm the one orchestrating everything. Things change in this world. The Doluo continent requires a powerful nation to unite and rule it. Why aren't the 3 empires as strong as the Sun Moon Empire? It's because they are technologically inferior. A unified empire can use technology to the benefit of its citizens. You should also have noticed that the Sun Moon Empire's technology has entered the Heavenly Soul Empire after we occupied it. At the start, their people were still very resistant and unwilling to listen. However, as time passed, aren't they already slowly starting to recognize us? This is the charm of technology. People's lives will only get better with progressive technology, and the future will also be brighter. That's why I believe that a unified empire is absolutely necessary. Of course, who rules this empire is a different thing. Hu Yuhao silently listened to Zhu Zi. After hearing her words, he gently shook his head. We have different beliefs. We can't watch as our empires get attacked. That's why I was unwilling to face everything at the start. However, I'll need to face things eventually. We are on opposing sides. The Sun Moon Empire is very strong, but it might not be able to rule the entire continent in the future. The foundation of the three empires of the original Doluo continent can't be corroded so easily. If things go bad, the people who really suffer are the civilians. Juzi said, "You don't have to say all that to me. We don't have a consensus when it comes to this. I have no desire for power or authority. I followed Shu Qianran for revenge. However, my desire to exact revenge has slowly died down over the past few years. Now, I have a son. I must pave the way for him. You've also seen how Shu Qianran treats my son. The last time, little Yunhan almost died outside. If you didn't bring him back, I can't imagine what would have happened to him. That's why I must become strong and make my son the most powerful person in this world. I'm not fighting for Shu Qianran, but my son. In the future, my son will become the true master of this world. No one can stop me. The only way is to kill me. If you are intent enough, I can tell you a secret." Hui Yuhao was stunned. "Using your life in exchange for a secret? What is it?" Juzi smiled, and her gaze turned gentler as she looked at him. "It's a secret you'll never guess. However, you can only know if you are determined enough to kill me. When you stab my heart, I'll tell you." Hui Yuhao laughed bitterly. "You've already seen through me clearly. You know I won't lay my hands on you. That's why you're so calm. I can't even hold you captive right now. However, you've also seen this independent dimension of mine. If I want to intentionally cause destruction, the Sun Moon Empire will definitely be greatly affected." Juzi replied, "You can try then. Let's see whether I unify the continent faster, or you cause damage to the Sun Moon Empire faster." Hui Yuhao furrowed his brow and said, "Aren't you worried at all? Don't forget that Shu Qianran was once hurt by me." Juzi said, "Yuhao, if you can do one thing, I might be able to delay the invasion of the Doluo continent." "What is it?" Hui Yuhao was curious as he looked at her. "Help me kill Shu Qianran," Juzi exclaimed with the utmost seriousness. "What?" Hui Yuhao hadn't expected her to say this. "He's your husband. You want to murder your husband?" Juzi laughed coldly. "Husband? He was never my husband. Neither was I ever his wife. I'm only a tool for him to use. Or rather, everyone around him are like tools to him. This includes my son. Originally, I still had some feelings for him. I wouldn't be here today if not for him. However, I no longer owed him anything the day he decided to forsake our son. In the near future, I must kill him. My son can only ascend the throne if he's dead. All the problems will cease to exist as a result of that. That's why you must kill him to delay the invasion of the Doluo continent. I'll only have the freedom to pull our troops back if we kill him. Of course, I still need to deal with the Holy Ghost Church after he's dead. It's also because of this that I won't unite the continent temporarily. So what do you think? If you can do that, I can promise that no war will be waged in the next 10 years. You can also help the Star Luo and Do Ling empires develop over those 10 years. Let's see whether they can catch up to the Sun Moon Empire. If you can do that, this world will still be split into 3. Hui Yuhao felt as if it were his first time meeting Juzi. He stared at her and couldn't utter a word for some time. Juzi had actually asked him to kill Shu Qianran. She was very unfamiliar to him in this manner. Right now, it seemed like she was only genuine when talking about her son. "Juzi, I didn't know you'd become like this. No matter what, Shu Qianran is the father of your son. Although I really wish for him to die, you shouldn't. I don't want you to become a cold-blooded creature." Juzi laughed coldly. "Father of my son? If that's the case, would he have laid his hands on his son? Although I'm not a good person, I'm a person of flesh and blood. I'm a real woman. However, Shu Qianran isn't a real man. He didn't just lose his legs when he was attacked by his biological younger brother. He also lost his manhood. My son is mine. He has no relation to Xu Qianran. To have a crown prince and stabilize his throne, he forced me to artificially inseminate a kid. Did you know that? Do you know how much I've suffered over these years? Tears flowed as she laughed coldly. Zhu Zi was shaking uncontrollably. Hui Yuhao was also in a daze. Of course he didn't know that she had suffered so much. Xu Qianran and Zhu Zi were actually only husband and wife in name. He had even forced Zhu Zi to artificially inseminate herself. This had to be the Sun Moon Empire's greatest secret. If it spread, both Xu Qianran and Zhu Zi would be doomed. However, Hui Yuhao wasn't thinking about this. He only realized why Zhu Zi hated Xu Qianran. A man who was her husband actually let her inseminate herself with some other guy's semen. How cruel was this? To a woman, this was even more cruel. I'm sorry, Zhu Zi. I didn't know. Zhu Zi took a few steps forward and came in front of him. She lifted her head to look at him. Right now, both of them were less than 30 centimeters apart. I don't need you to apologize. Although I hate Xu Qianran, I love my son. That's why you can help me kill Xu Qianran, if that's possible. However, you must never harm little Yunhan. If you can do this, I don't need you to care about anything else. I'll think of a way to stop the Sun Moon Empire from waging a war for the next 10 years. What do you think? Hui Yuhao was really moved. The Star Luo and Do Ling empires could achieve a lot in 10 years. Although there was still a huge gap between these two empires and the Sun Moon Empire in terms of soul tool technology, they had the opportunity to catch up if they had 10 years to plan and prepare. After 10 years, he would also become stronger. When that happened, he could possibly control the entire war. However, this matter involved many things. Hui Yuhao was still hesitant. Let me consider it. Zhu Zi nodded and said, I'm not in a rush. However, don't worry. No matter what, I won't really attack Shrek City. You told me that the city is your home. Why would I destroy your home? Hui Yuhao asked, what's your true intention? Apart from forcing me back from the Sun Moon Empire, what else do you want if you are not intending to attack Shrek? Is your target the Do Ling Empire or the Star Luo Empire? Zhu Zi looked at him and smiled without saying anything. Hui Yuhao looked at her. Answer my question and I'll send you back. Zhu Zi sighed and replied, so what if I answer you? Even I promise not to attack Shrek Academy, will those from the Academy believe you? Even if they do, will you take a risk with the Academy? Hui Yuhao furrowed his brow. You've calculated it perfectly already. Zhu Zi chuckled, yes? Am I not clever? However, I don't really think I'm smart. If I were, I wouldn't have let you get away back then. Then there wouldn't be Wang Donga. Hui Yuhao turned his head away and avoided her passionate gaze. He sighed and said, come on, let me send you back. Zhu Zi laughed, what are you so scared of? I won't eat you. As she spoke, she took a step forward and came closer to Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao subconsciously took half a step back. He lifted his right hand and pressed it on her shoulder to keep her at arm's length. Is she really that good? Zhu Zi asked as she stared at Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao silently looked at Zhu Zi, but he didn't utter a word. When he was still learning in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Academy, he didn't know that Wang Donga was a girl. If he had known that then, he wouldn't have been able to accept anyone else in his heart. Hui Yuhao's feelings for Zhu Zi were complex. Indeed, Zhu Zi was the first girl to walk into his heart. It was just that he was very confused about that feeling. Then, Hui Yuhao had felt a yearning in his heart. After this, he realized that his yearning was actually for Wang Donga. Things changed with the passage of time. He was really dumbfounded when Zhu Zi asked him such a question now. He wasn't willing to harm her, but he couldn't just speak blindly. Zhu Zi only watched him silently. After a while, her tears started to flow. Yuhao, I only hope that you remember that I won't harm two people in this world, my son and you. Hui Yuhao shook a little. Given his spiritual cultivation, he could naturally sense that her words were filled with emotions. They weren't a pretense. He nodded gently before he revealed a long look on his face. I'm really not willing to face you on the battlefield. At least we're still friends. Juzi asked, can you give me a hug? Hui Yuhao hesitated for a moment. Eventually, he opened his arms wide and gently hugged her. However, he didn't pull her close to him. Juzi pushed him away. You're really patronizing. But I'm happy enough. After she finished speaking, she suddenly turned around and ran away. She ran outside. Hui Yuhao quickly followed her outside. As she stood in the base, Juzi looked into the distance. In the distance, the soil was barren, and there were still many hills. There was nothing green, and no sign of life could be seen. It's really magical. I don't know why such a place exists. I know you won't tell me. I won't probe either. Send me back. After I return, I'm still the War God Empress. Everything I told you earlier still holds. Okay. Hui Yuhao gently sighed. He didn't recite any incantations before a pitch-black door opened behind them. Hui Yuhao grabbed Juzi's shoulder with one hand. Their figures flashed. They crossed the threshold and vanished. The light changed once again as everything seemed to have returned to normal. Hui Yuhao brought Juzi out of the huge black door as they returned to her tent. Juzi turned around and took a last glimpse at the mystical sight behind her. Even now, she was still slightly startled by the experience she had just had. So this is your deepest secret that you have been hiding from everyone? She asked gently. Hui Yuhao did not answer. All he did was stare at her as complex emotions overwhelmed him. Juzi continued, you're still too kind. You had a great opportunity to kill me just now, or at the very least imprison me. Actually, I was not completely truthful earlier. If I am not around, the army might just attack Shrek City. However, with the power that all of you possess, you will still have a good chance of surviving our attacks. As long as you are able to withstand the first wave of attacks, you might just stand a chance at defeating us. However, you have just let this chance slip away. Now that I am back here, there's no way you can catch me again as long as I choose not to allow you to do so. Hui Yuhao sighed and said, I know. Juzi's eyes widened in disbelief, and she asked, then why did you send me back? Hui Yuhao shook his head and said, I couldn't make up my mind. You're right. I am just too kind. However, I hope that you will never challenge my limits again. You should not be overly confident about your abilities either. If I really have to kill you someday, you will never be able to run away from me. Juzi revealed a smile on her face. It seemed as though she was not worried in the slightest about Hui Yuhao's threatening words. If you really have this capability, you should kill that man first. If you kill him, I will adhere to our 10-year promise. Hui Yuhao squinted his eyes as multiple thoughts fleeted across his mind. He knew it was somewhat against his conscience to kill Juzi. However, he had no psychological barrier when it came to killing that man. Nonetheless, would he really be that easy to kill? Hui Yuhao knew he had to take down the entire Imperial Soul Engineer Legion in Radiant City in order to kill him. I'll take my leave. Hui Yuhao waved his hand at Juzi before beginning to fade into the air. Juzi was a little frustrated by his response as she suddenly spoke, I will tell you who my target is. Huh? Hui Yuhao, who was about to leave the tent, suddenly stopped and reappeared. He turned around and stared at Juzi in disbelief. Juzi stood up and walked towards Hui Yuhao. Yuhao, believe it or not, I only called you and promised to tell you this secret because I wanted to see you once more before you leave. Hui Yuhao was startled by her words. As he sensed her affection for him, his mind turned into a complete mess. My target is the Douling Empire. You probably could have guessed it as well. You were just unsure if your guess was correct, that's all. Juzi smiled. Hui Yuhao stared at her and nodded. Following which, his body flickered as he vanished into thin air. Juzi stood where she was as a faint smile appeared on her face. It was as though Hui Yuhao had never left her. It was only after a good long while that the smile on her face faded away. Following which, she was back to her usual professional self as she returned to her commander's seat. Afterward, she reactivated the spiritual barrier she had shut down as she started to ponder something. After leaving the commander's tent, Hui Yuhao soared up into the sky. Every single detection wave and fluctuation from the surrounding surveillance soul tools was instantly tricked by his imitation. He only stopped when he reached an altitude of 5,000 meters. He turned around to look at the huge Sun-Moon Empire camp beneath him. Hui Yuhao was a little disappointed in himself for not having the determination to deal with Juzi once and for all. Even though she behaved in a gentle manner in front of him, Hui Yuhao could sense how scary she was. From the start till the end, he did not manage to seize the initiative in their interaction. Juzi had delicately used every weakness in his heart to her advantage. It was truly frightening to see such a woman as your enemy's commander. After all, she was not called the War God Empress for nothing. Hui Yuhao felt that the scariest part about Juzi was how she had only spoken the truth. Her rigorous analysis of her schemes and how her opponents would react had forced him to dismiss any ideas of imprisoning her. It would definitely be more challenging to fend off an enraged Sun-Moon Empire led by the Holy Ghost Church than to handle a calm and collected Juzi. Shrek City could not afford to be involved in a head-on clash like that. In addition, Juzi had a good grasp of what was on his mind. She knew where his limits lay, and how Hui Yuhao would definitely let her go after she revealed to him that she would never attack Shrek City. She had also accurately predicted that Hui Yuhao would believe her without any doubt. Perhaps this was because she had shut off the spiritual barrier and put down her defenses before him. She knew Hui Yuhao would never attack her after she did all of that. The air high up in the sky was extremely refreshing. After his short pause in the air, Hui Yuhao sped back to Shrek Academy. Just as Elder Xian had said, the only thing he could do after failing to convince the elders in Shrek Academy was to stop Juzi's operations. After returning to Shrek City, Hui Yuhao headed straight for the military drill ground. Following which, he opened the spectral gate to release the 3 Soul Engineer Legions back into their own respective training areas. At the same time, they brought out huge amounts of resources and rations. These resources were sufficient for Shrek City to set up multiple Soul Tool deployment areas within the city. With the addition of the 3 Soul Engineer Legions, Shrek City's defenses would definitely be improved tremendously. They would even be able to hold off the Sun-Moon Empire's all-out attack for an extended period of time. After finishing all of these things, the sun had started to rise. Hui Yuhao headed back to the Tang sect instead of returning to the academy. He had already given instructions for the leaders within the Soul Engineer Legions to submit their reports on the progress of their tasks at the military drill ground to the academy. Hui Yuhao was surprised to learn that Bei Bei and Tang Wutong had already returned to the Tang sect. He could not care about disrupting their rest as he dashed to his room to look for Tang Wutong. Wutong, how did it go? Even though dawn was only barely breaking, Tang Wutong was able to leap out of her bed to hug Hui Yuhao right after she was woken up. That was the responsiveness of a titled Dolor. After returning, she had heard about Hui Yuhao from the others. Even though the others might not be entirely sure what he had done, Tang Wutong had no trouble guessing what Hui Yuhao did while she was away. In fact, she was clear that he had sent her away so as to prevent her from influencing his decision. If she was around, she would have definitely not allowed him to cultivate his second soul core with the yin-yang complement technique at this critical time. Bang! The power of the seal was absolutely frightening. While Tang Wutong was hugging Hui Yuhao tightly, Hui Yuhao was not spared by the seal. The seal forced him away from Tang Wutong and threw him across the room. Hui Yuhao was forced into the wall before he slid down and landed on the floor. He was exasperated to discover how powerful his future father-in-law's seal was. The seal was actually able to adjust its power based on his current strength. Even though he now possessed 2 soul cores, he still felt a lot of pain after being tossed aside by the seal. At this instant, Hui Yuhao started to question how powerful his future father-in-law exactly was. His seal was so powerful that it could adjust its power based on the other person's ability. It was important to note that Hui Yuhao could even flee successfully from an ultimate Dolor. However, he stood no chance against the seal at all. He had thought that he would be able to hug Wutong properly now, but it seemed like he was still a long way from being able to do that. Tang Wutong let out a cold grunt and said, "I hugged you because I was very worried about you. But you deserve to be tossed aside by the seal. How dare you attempt to force a breakthrough when I'm not around? Have you ever considered my feelings? What should I do if you had failed? As she spoke, her eyes started to turn red as tears welled up in them. Following which, Tang Wutong sniffed a few times before racing forward to Hui Yu Hao. She picked him up before sniffing his body. Shit! Hui Yu Hao started to panic, but he ensured that his anxiety did not show on his face. Explain. Tang Wutong let out a burst of cold laughter as she crossed her arms in front of her chest. He could see the rage within the violet pupils of her eyes. Hui Yu Hao's heart skipped a beat as he tried to squeeze out a reply. Weren't we talking about serious matters? How did it go with the Douling Empire? Any news from them? Did they listen to what you had to say? Did you manage to find the Heavenly Sun Doluo? Tang Wutong pouted and said, I managed to find the Heavenly Sun Doluo and passed your message to him. But it was apparent that they were not persuaded by my words. In fact, elite troops from the Douling Empire are already on their way to Shrek City. They should be here by tomorrow at the latest. When I reached their empire, they had already dispatched their elite troops. They had sent for Soul Master legions and 200 troops in total. Hui Yu Hao facepalmed and exclaimed, Shit! Zhu Zi's planning to attack Douling Empire. After hearing his words, Tang Wutong showed a serious expression as she asked, Explain yourself. Why is there a perfumed scent on your body? Hui Yu Hao sighed as he lowered his head and started sharing how he had planned to abduct Zhu Zi, but ended up being persuaded by her. He did not dare to hide anything from Tang Wutong. After all, her big round eyes seemed as though they could see through any of his lies, even if they were white lies. Hence, he decided that it was better for him to be truthful than to be caught lying. After all, that would be detrimental for their relationship. On top of that, Hui Yu Hao did not think he had been unfaithful towards her. Tang Wutong was visibly angrier after hearing his explanation. So you hugged just because she asked you to? I only hugged her shoulders lightly. That's still wrong. I can't believe how unreasonable women become once they are jealous. So what if I'm unreasonable? Go and find her if you want. Who knows? She might order her troops to retreat if you promise to marry her. In fact, they might even turn around and overthrow Xu Qianran. You would have effectively saved all of us. Tang Wutong replied sarcastically. Hui Yu Hao sighed and said, All right, I was wrong. I will definitely bring you along the next time I look for her. You must be punished if you have done something wrong. Tang Wutong glared coldly at him. I need to be punished? I have already admitted that I was wrong. Hui Yu Hao looked at her with innocent eyes. Tang Wutong suddenly pounced on him and gave him a deep and intense kiss. Hui Yu Hao's eyes widened as a warm and beautiful sensation traveled straight into his brain. His mind immediately went completely blank. Even his yin-yang complement soul cores seemed to be powerless in this situation. Following which, it was needless to say that he ended up in the wall again. This video will end here.